Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm an MA student in Intercultural Studies. I'm really sorry for how close to the deadline this is. I'm actually getting married on Saturday, so I've been very busy, and my life is just turned upside down, and I'm just trying to get until Saturday. However, I'm so excited to discuss my ethnography and everything that I've learned over the past couple of months. The focus of my ethnography has been immigrant communities and really the correlation between religion and happiness, but also pressing into communal bonds is something that I've really found interesting and very present in my community, and contrasting either a communal bond of religion or a communal bond of work, and how a communal bond of work is just not enough to hold together a community. My ethnography is very specific. It's in my hometown of McKinsey, Tennessee. McKinsey is a small town of 5,500 people. We're also very economically disadvantaged. Our average income is about $30,000 a year per family. And then we have a very high unemployment rate, and that unemployment rate is steadily increasing. So it's very hard to move into this community even as an American citizen, but especially as an immigrant. It's very challenging to even find a job. However, we do have very cheap housing, which makes us very appealing for immigrants to move in and really start to adjust, and then they'll eventually move on to somewhere where there are more jobs. And so I am a teacher, and so I work with English ESL students. I primarily work with 2 Chinese students right now, which is very interesting because I don't speak Chinese. But it's been an interesting semester working with them and getting to know them and really seeing their progress in their schoolwork and in their English, and really getting to know a lot more about them. We also have a very strong Hispanic community within our town, which is very average for a southern town, and really looking at the Hispanic community that's been established, and looking at this newly established Chinese community and really comparing them and how they go about their lives, and really how the Hispanic community has really paved a way for other immigrant communities. However, they do have something very specific about them that makes them more prosperous and more communal, that could really serve as a model for the Chinese community. My interviews only took place with my students who are in middle school or high school. So we're looking at an age range of from 10 to 16. But using children has really been a way for me to gain access into the community, but also seeing what it's really like, because a child doesn't, they don't sugarcoat it, and they're very open and they're very truthful of how their lives are. So going into my interviews, I interviewed 4 students. We have a very small town, obviously, so there isn't a large pool of interviewees for me to really pick from. So I used my 2 students that I work with all the time, and then 2 more students from the Hispanic community that I know very well. And so I use pseudonyms, obviously, because they're minors, and just to keep their information sensitive. I did have parental permission for this, so everything is very legal and accounted for. So looking at my 2 Chinese students, I interviewed all students with the same questions, looking into their family life, their family structure, but also their reasoning for moving to the area, their reasoning for moving to the United States, and then their religious background. My 2 Chinese students, who I use the names of Billy and Angie for, their family bond, they're actually siblings, but a lot of their information was very different because they're 5 years apart. So the way they look, their worldview is completely different. And so Angie really struggles socially. She doesn't have very many friends. She really wants to learn English, but then Billy just doesn't have the same drive. However, they do have the same outlook on the reasoning of why they're here, and that's money. They work all the time, even as children. They work in the restaurant. They are there after school until closing, and they work and they try to make money, and any way that they can help their family out into gaining more money, that's really what they want to do. But they're very sad, and they're very their outlook on life is hopeless, because to them all they're doing is they're working, and there's nothing else after that, which is it's very disheartening for me as their teacher to look on to such hopelessness. But then I contrasted that with 2 Hispanic students who also have not been in this community for very long, and they just have a completely different attitude of, they make all their friends at church. They have a strong community, even though their English is lacking. They're growing so much faster, just because they have people to talk to and to practice with, and just their community is just so based around church that their life is flourishing and their happiness abounds. And it's just very interesting to really look at these 2 communities, and they're in very similar spots. These 4 students are in very similar spots because they've been in the United States for about the same time, which is about 1.5 years. And looking at the 2 of them, the 2 of my Chinese students, and then comparing them to the 2 Hispanic students, and you don't see the same results, and really showing that their community is what makes them, and their religion is what makes them happy, and is what makes them feel accepted, and helps them prosper within the community. It's been very interesting working through this ethnographic process, and really evaluating what my students' worldview is, and really seeing how sad it can be as a student who just doesn't know anyone here, and who has no community to back them up, and who really just needs support. And the way that they look at the world is just so bleak, and everything is about success and money, and being able to adjust my curriculum to that. So this ethnography has really been very beneficial to me in my work, and being able to relate to them better, and seeing how they're missing Jesus, and that's really all that can be interjected into their lives to give them hope. And the ethnographic process really is open spiritual communication. This isn't my first ethnography. I actually spent a summer working on ethnography in Quebec for the North American Mission Board, and it really had very similar results, which is strange. But God works through those, obviously. But a community without religion and a community without Christ is hopeless, and success and money cannot fulfill you. So I'm very excited to move forward from this ethnography and move forward with my students. I've really loved doing this, and just having intentional conversations with them. Obviously the interview questions were a little weird, and they would be like, "Miss Hannah, why are we doing this? This is not fun." But really seeing how they would just shut down after the mention of religion, which is very expected coming from their cultural background, and coming from China not very long ago. Just the mention of religion is very, especially Christianity, is very off limits to them, and so they don't really ever want to talk about it. But being able to just have them talk about it for a little bit is very eye-opening, but also gives me a nice place to start laying groundwork with them. And even if I'm not their teacher for very much longer, someone else can come behind me and really work with the seeds that I've already sown. So that's been really wonderful. Yeah, and so it's been a great ethnography. Thank you.